So I'm going to start off with a haiku. Revolution comes, streets run red with human blood. Is it mine or yours? My first poem goes out to my mom. It's called 8:38. It is 8:38 a.m. on a Tuesday in 2003. A black woman drives her kids to school. She is a multitasking mother. Raised to remember the oral traditions of old, she does not need a list to organize and compartmentalize her life. Baby sister Mariam spits out her pacifier for the third time this morning. Mama leans to her left, picks it up, sucks and spits off the dirt, and returns it to baby's wailing mouth, ready for the game to start again. Only this time, it doesn't. Flashing blue lights freeze her in her tracks. Of all the days she could have forgotten her license at home, it had to be this one. Her life flashes before her eyes. Then headlines, chalk lines, children crying, spin doctors on ITV offering their diagnoses on why she deserved to die because she did not comply. Because the difference between a beat cop and a detective is a question of cognitive dissonance. They saw the child car seat, the accumulated crumbs and hair-coated sweets, an open and shut case on the subject of ownership. Only the three-pointed star of a Mercedes coupled with the color of its owner made these police think otherwise. Because you can drag your family out of poverty, working 50-hour weeks for 15 years and still find yourself handcuffed, apologizing for crimes you couldn't commit, begging to be let go because any longer and who knows what your kids could see, apologizing and thanking the men who did this to you for letting you leave their sight alive. Ever since that morning, Mum has tried to be the perfect image of stoic pride, laughing that morning off as one of the many random situations a person can get caught in. After all, how would you treat the day you thought your kids could become orphans? This next one goes out to anyone who is currently or has ever been broke. Have you ever been so broke that nobody could lend you any money because pending payment in your bank account would eat any income that came around, leaving you with less than what you started with? Have you ever been so broke that despite never taking a loan, you're convinced you've been missold PPI? Have you ever stood at a red traffic light and wondered, what's a few broken bones in relation to some sweet compensation? Have you ever been so broke that you could only afford to sigh deeply for lunch and eat sleep for dinner? You didn't want to let the crumbs go to waste, so you'd even savor the taste of your toothpaste. Have you ever been so broke that condiments became main courses? So broke you couldn't afford the free tap water, and you didn't even intend to drink it, but dip your cereal into it because milk costs too damn much? Have you ever lived a life like Little Britain fat fighters and seriously considered eating dust? Anybody? No? Have you ever lived a life like Little Britain fat fighters? Have you ever been so broke that the last time you smelled a hot meal was when a rich man farted? Have you ever been so broke that KFC bargain buckets cut budget expenses in half because the wet wipes could substitute a bath? Have you ever been so broke that blood banks rejected you, knowing anyone injected with your DNA could get infected with your abysmal money management? Have you ever found discarded cigarettes on the grass, in the ground, or an ashtray and collected the dregs inside to roll yourself a tiny tobacco stick to puff a 5-minute respite to your life? Have you ever been so broke that you apologize to your parents daily? Because even though you're not telepathic, you can hear them thinking, "You failed me." Have you ever been so broke because after graduation, I know I'm getting close? A disclaimer before this next poem. The Black Plague was one of the leading causes for the Peasants' Revolt. And this next poem is called The Feud. It is about the Middle Ages and the River Thames. This bank was once home to serenity, Reflected ebbs, etched into memories, wove simplicity with complexity. Entire days could pass by with brevity as autumn breezes blew so pleasantly. How I could remember it all so readily. But now it's a different kind of silence, one that follows strained cries of violence, oh, how quickly peace can turn to enmity. The plague left scars upon this city's skin. For many, it has taken everything. Some even used it to tie up loose ends. After all, it's easy to defend, dumping bodies to prevent infection, but you can often tell by the inflection who truly mourns at this watery grave. But now I pray these blades of grass won't cut me as they grow, however slow, between toes too callous to see how deep they bleed. I pray the dirt clinging onto my feet sees only sun, river, and oak trees, that it never runs red. And yet the dead of past and present rear their wretched heads when I peer beneath the river's surface. Their souls, just like mine, spat upon and deemed worthless by so-called noble knights and priests alike. If I drowned, pulled down to the river ground by dark arms, hands, and wrists, whose thick fingers linger, lying in wait without a sound for the poor fools who thought they could challenge the silk-adorned arbiters of so-called balance, dropped over embankments by faceless guards whose liege lord is the golden coin that clangs heavy against stone like God's own church bells. The days I've spent staring at these River Thames waters, lost in their eternal exhales and swells, the bodies I've seen, lambs thrown to slaughter. Some say that the corpses washing up on low tide belong to sinners, thieves, and blasphemers, that the ripples left are silent echoes, warnings with a meaning that everyone knows. This Thames is how they seek to cleanse the land, to scrub the city's serfs under the surf. For this land is theirs, her laws are theirs to twist. Better to have them think you don't exist than to play the villain in their mama's farce. I break my back every day toiling their soil for what? I can still be killed and swiftly forgot if I refuse to take all the blame when drought causes their fields to yield less grain, fields whose moistened soils bear the water's hame, but river and rain do not run the same. Rain is the fleeting visitor, the spell that barely washes the muck from the ground, but the river is the immortal ancestor. Her waves, her wrinkles that meander east, reaching out toward the ends of the earth and perhaps beyond. But that's not for me to say. For I am but a humble nobody, an anonymous leaf floating softly at the water's arbitrary mercy. Water without master or enemy, that had once held an arresting beauty, water polluted with rotting bodies, by the knights and barons who never dared to care for common folk like me. But soon I'll reap the riches I'm owed, and what was once theirs will one day be mine. All it takes is time, for one day we will all rise like the plague. We will spread like London bridges, roaring flames, and bury those noble barons deep down. The disease of their greed will putrefy, and there will be not one drop for them to wash their boils and sores and purify their souls from the judgment that is to come. Power will soon be for all, and not just some. This next poem is about love and climate change and animals. It's called Black Jaguar, Black Panther. On a cloudless day, lost to time, a black jaguar happens upon a panther and his kill. Together they share bits of flesh in silence. Panther always staring at jaguar's ebony eyes. They're two cats, raised in the Pan-African bush, sons of a jungle, poached, pillaged, and burned into an iron cross. Two brothers, long lost from different tribes, one's oral history seeing staring as an invite to start a fight, the other as a simple sign of respect. A monsoon passes, and jaguar and panther share meat often paid for with panther's own sweat amongst the dunes of desert and Serengeti. each morsel they eat making them stronger, given by a land on its last legs. Jaguar aspires to draw blood like the panther, or to wear his skin like a suit, or to claw his throat out. He doesn't know. So many years fighting with lions over carrion scraps, tricked by scorpion and spider alike, had squashed the poor jaguar's eyes into a suspicious squint whenever confronted with the panther's kindness. But there was one thought that brought him back to being a cub. Mama Jaguar roaring stories poorly passed down about the sins and dangers that come from playing with panthers. Jaguar licks his fangs at flashes of panther and him, rolling in grass now long dead, nipping ears, purring, growling, neither caring about wayward scratches, abrasive tongues lapping each other's blood before becoming one in body, one in mind. Every morning nowadays, Jaguar wakes up at dawn. He stalks the herds from wildebeest to antelope, looking for the biggest brute, all muscle, a stampede standing on 4 hooves. Some say Jaguar is still searching for this titan beast of burden, dreaming of panther's face, eyes wide and salivating at the sight dropped before his obsidian paws. The gift of a kill even he couldn't manage alone. And I will leave you all off with a very short poem about happiness. Happiness is a mango. It's a ripe yellow sun, bleeding gold, blown by zephyrus breezes across far and wide and into your lungs. Take a second to taste it on your tongue. Hold it in your hands. Feel the hairs in your fingertips, under your fingernails. Smell the fruit. Close your eyes. Take it all in and bite down on it hard.